nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry. Okay, sounds good. We got a quorum to work.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got ahead of you there a little bit.
It's okay.
Hey, would you like to take roll call?
Commissioner Dibdall. Commissioner Corbin,
Here.
Commissioner Wire,
Here.
Commissioner Shaw,
I'm here.
Mayor Lindsay.
Here. You have before you the agenda for this evening. Do we have a motion to adopt?
So.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Seeing no appearances or acknowledgements. Do we have anything on the consent calendar anyone would like to remove and discuss?
Motion to approve the consent calendar. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Seeing no unfinished business. Under new business, discuss an action related to liquidated damages on the RD Phase 1A, 1B, and 2 improvement projects. Ryan, did you want to address that?
Well, Ryan's coming up. I'll make a note just to clarify. The agenda lists discussion as phases 1A, 1B, and phase 2. We're just gonna be tackling phases 1A and 1B today. We won't be discussing anything with phase 2. So 1A and 1B are projects that were bid to J&J Construction, J&J Earthworks, that's what it is. And Banner and our engineering office prepared a memo included in the packet that I think summarizes this complex topic, is that we have multiple projects, multiple deadlines, all split up in different ways. I think I'll turn it over to Ryan to lead us off.
Ryan and Weston, yes. I didn't see Weston again.
That's be sneaky like that.
So the letter that's included in the agenda package is the letter from Banner Associates addressed to me. We've had a number of conversations between city staff and Banner Associates on what our options are as far as liquidated damages go. This letter lays out the contract dates for both phase 1A and 1B. And then we include some discussion on the phase 1A and 1B projects. And additionally, it lays out a couple of potential actions that could be made. I don't know if you want me to go through each of those or whether we just kind of want to.
For the public, that would be appreciated,
Okay.
Ryan.
Yeah, sure will. So as far as the phase 1A discussion or contract dates, excuse me, substantial completion was July 1st, 2022. Final completion August 1st of 2022. Liquidated damages, those would be $1,600 a working day for interim or substantial, and $800 a working day for final. Phase 1B contract dates were interim completion of October 1st, 2021, substantial completion October 1st, 2022, and a final completion of November 15th. Liquidated damages for that project is a little different. For the interim or substantial, that's $1,700 a working day, and the final is $850 a working day. On phase 1A, the project met substantial completion, and the contractor J&J Earthworks was given a preliminary punch list of items to complete. No work was really performed on that punch list through the 2022 construction season. That was due in part to us putting more emphasis on the phase 1A, or excuse me, 1B work. So potential working days accumulated to December 5th. Beyond the final completion date is 87 days. We looked at reviewed the contract and the project status, and there are two options for that 1A. We can assess liquidated damages for the working days that accumulated beyond the final completion date of August 1st. In that scenario, we'd recommend a winter shutdown agreement be coordinated with J&J Earthworks. And then we would continue the working day counts when the weather is appropriate during the 2023 construction season. Option B would be to change the final completion date to allow the work to be completed during the 2023 construction season. We'd recommend that Banner and I Banner and the city had agreed that a date of June 15th of 2023 would be reasonable. And in this scenario, we'd also recommend a winter shutdown agreement to be coordinated with J&J. Liquidated damages would be considered if the work is not completed then beyond that final completion date again that we've indicated of June 5th. Of those two options, it's Banner and the city's recommendation, city staff recommendation that option B be considered. We think that that's reasonable and would prompt them to get the work done as quickly as possible. The phase 1B project has not met either interim completion or substantial completion requirements. The contractor has, however, completed all of the underground utilities, but not the final surfacing work. That final surfacing work is shown. There's also a map that was attached, and so the red is the areas where the surfacing is not been placed. Total potential working days accumulated between the interim completion date of October 1st, 2021, and the substantial completion date of October 1st, 2022 is 255 days. Total potential working days accumulated to December 5th, beyond the substantial completion date of October 1st is 43 days. And then through review of the contract and the project status, we have three options. A would be to assess liquidated damages for the working days that have accumulated beyond the interim completion. This would, similar to 1A, would include a winter shutdown agreement to be coordinated with the contractor. And then we would continue the working day count during the 2023 construction season. B would be to change the interim completion date from October 1st, 2021 to October 1st, 2022. And then assess liquidated damages for the working days that have accumulated beyond that substantial completion date of October 1st. Again, this would include a water shutdown agreement to be coordinated with the contractor, and we would continue working day count whether it's appropriate during the 23 season. Final completion liquidated damages would be considered after that project is completed, has reached the substantial completion. So whenever that work is substantially completed, we would then know what the final amount would be. And then option C would be to change the interim, substantial, and final completion date to allow work to be completed during the 23 season. Then I would recommend an interim and substantial completion date of June 15th, 2023, with a final completion date of August 1st, 2023. Again, this winter shutdown agreement would be coordinated with the contractor. Liquidated damages would be considered if that work is not completed by that modified final completion date of August 1st. I'll let Weston elaborate any more on how the contract reads or anything you'd like to draw emphasis to.
And for these, following the contract, we did reach out to rural development, asked if they wanted to have input in this discussion. They said generally their recommendation is to follow the contract. All three parties, RD, the city, and the contractor signed that contract. That's what they would enforce. Now with that, they want to go, whatever the city determines best for the city of Madison, that's what they would see at the time. So this here that was developed was.
Does RD need to approve changes?
They would have to approve the change order, and that's where they said this would be our initial recommendation. Whatever the city determines is best for the city of Madison, we would likely follow suit with that. So they would sign a change order if determined that the city wanted to do a date change. And there's two different discussions because two different contracts. So on the phase 1A contract, the two actions that could be taken, and I'll just say that there's either no action where the contract date stays what the contract date is. And to date, we had identified 87 working days beyond that completion date. So there would potentially be 87 days of liquidated damages that the city could assess to the contractor. The other course of action could be to modify these contract dates. Now, given this is just the final contract date, that contractor met substantial completion on that phase 1A. The final would be the remaining punch list items. So with that, the city could change that final completion date to, which would be sometime next year, because that work's not going to be completed over the winter, to sometime next year. And there would be no liquidated damages assessed to the contractor unless they didn't meet the modified or changed date.
And staff has a recommendation of B, which would recommend a completion date of June 15th of 2023.
And the reason for that is the project did meet substantial completion. The city was able to utilize the roadways, they were able to utilize driveways, the sidewalk. So there was some, a pretty extensive list of punch list items to be completed and yet to be completed. But it likely didn't impact the residents. It maybe didn't impact the residents to where liquidated damages would normally, to where we'd normally see liquidated damages assessed.
What's the contractor saying?
The contractor would like to have zero liquidated
Well,
damages.
right.
In the discussions with the contractor, they've talked to Ryan as well. They've owned up to, hey, we didn't get the project completed. We had a schedule where we were, we put a schedule out there that we were gonna be able to complete it. Some things fell through on our end. We weren't able to get that done for the city. We understand that we're beyond the contract dates. There hasn't been a negotiation with the contractor on, well, what would, what date would be reasonable for you if it was to be changed? Or, what would you like to see the city do? I did extend the invitation to the contractor to attend the meeting tonight. Let them know that this would be discussed. And I don't know if they're listening in or not, but I know that they're not in attendance in person.
Other questions or comments?
What do you see in other communities that you're working with? And these contractors or similar contractors, I mean, was everybody behind or what?
Not every contract was this last year. I've seen a number, Banner as a whole has seen a number of contracts that did go beyond the completion dates. In some cases, liquidated damages are assessed. In some cases, they're not. It's specific to the project, specific to the community.
Is there a reason now is the time to be looking at modifying that? And if we just left it as it was? And perhaps that would motivate them to get things done.
And I think changing that date to June 15th would give them an opportunity to finish that up. Finish the remaining punch list work. If it wasn't finished by June 15th, then we would reevaluate assessment of liquidated damages.
Could we increase the penalty? If we move the date?
It's a new
You
contract.
could-
You're in a
so
contract.
It is a new contract. I think that could be considered. I haven't done that before, or haven't been involved in a contract where we've done that. But, you could change that agreement.
To Jeremiah's point, I think what you're getting at is we could leave the dates where they're at, not assess anything at this point, tell them to get done as soon as possible, and then decide at the end what's fair and reasonable. And that would be an option at your disposal. And I think what the recommendations here are looking at are resetting the expectations and the timeline for the contractor so that everybody knows what our new expectations are given these changes. In particular, with the final completion versus substantial completion, we've placed extra emphasis on the need to get substantial completion met. That's why the recommendation on 1A is to let them have some more time on the final completion. But again, we just want to reset that expectation with contractors and let them know what the new deadlines are going to be. At the same time, I think we do want to assess some sort of liquidated damages rather than waiting to the end and potentially not assessing any. I'd say for two reasons. One, we're going into another construction season that wasn't planned. that will come with costs for engineering, for project administration. And so we're gonna have costs that we want to have some way to pay for, and liquidated damages are set up in the contracts as being a good avenue for that. The second reason that I think on 1B that is very pertinent is we had this interim completion date, that was in 21. So they had a segment of blocks that they want to get all the work done in the 21 construction season, then we had a second phase in 22. And ultimately, the paving on that first year of 21 didn't get completed either. And they said that they would do it in 22, when all the other streets are done, they just pave them all at once. And ultimately, of course, they didn't reach that. So now we are running into a situation where we've had streets, Fifth Street, I believe, which was supposed to be paved in 21, it isn't gonna be paved until 23. So I think it's reasonable to communicate to the contractors that we are gonna be assessing liquidated damages. This is what our plan is. And ultimately, if there isn't the case, if this isn't the case for liquidated damages, I'm not sure what is when the street isn't paid for an extra 2 years.
And in reading B and Jameson's comment, I don't see part of the interim liquidated damages in here. As I read it, liquidated would be considered if not completed by the modified date. So do we want to make an adjustment to what's in B?
Are we on 1A or 1B?
No, we're on 1A. Option B on 1A. And it just says liquidated damages could be considered if the work is not completed by the modified date, which I'm reading as June 15th of 2023.
Correct, for the final completion.
Yes.
Can you rephrase your question?
So my question is that the way I'm reading this is that if they got it done by June of 15, that there may not be liquidated damages. That's why I'm wondering if that
Correct.
wanted to be worded.
Yeah, I would say if you're changing the final completion date on 1A to June 15th of this time, and they meet that there would not be an opportunity for liquidated damages, correct? Yeah.
Right, that's the way I'm reading it.
Yeah.
Now, is that what you were also meaning and what you just said is what my question is?
We're really focused on the paving, getting substantial completion, and while these are two projects, it is
And
the same
paving
contract.
is done on this one.
It is, yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, no, I am, I'm willing to go right with, with what the employees and that have worked with, because other ones have been working with it, so.
Well, and we did have the question of, do we leave the date for 1A for final completion where it's at? That way, if that one's dragging on, we still have the opportunity for liquidated damages on that. And we said that we don't want to incentivize the contractor to get the final completion done, the landscaping, the seeding, before they get the surfacing done on 1B. So ultimately, let's be lenient on this liquidated damages for 1A so that they have the priority on substantial completion of 1B.
Got it. I agree with that.
It makes sense to me.
Back to Jeremiah's question with the dollar amount per day, is that something we can tweak if we're, if we're moving the date out? Can we increase
Put some more teeth on it.
yeah. Double it,
Honestly, that wasn't something I considered, so I think we're open for discussion on that.
otherwise. I'll have the same conversation in July,
Do you have a dollar figure in mind?
Is it
I was
now?
thinking we just double.
Double it, yeah.
Right now, it's at $800 per day.
Yeah, double.
To 16. So looking on here and that interim was 16, make final 16. Because on interim, they've got that pretty much completed, right?
They've met the interim and substantial completion.
So finally,
Yeah.
yes.
And
So final is the one that you'd want to make that 16.
For 1A, the only one that matters. is
1A.
final.
Yeah, for 1A.
That's what's remaining, yeah.
And from previous discussions with rural development, when these values were developed, the 1,600 for interim substantial, the 800 for final. That was developed at the beginning of the project, and that was by the request of rural development. They had said, okay, develop these values, so that way when you get into discussions regarding liquidated damages, you have a basis, or something that was predetermined prior to that contract being signed. So to change that, I don't know, same rural development would still have to approve that change. I don't know how they view that. I think that's a question we're gonna have to bring up to them. To see if they would be on board with modifying that. Just for the sole fact that they were fairly involved in the development of that number. Or
And that's-
had pushed to get that, some basis or,
In the
an
beginning.
avenue on how to, where those costs would come from and how they were developed. They wanted to have that written down prior to the contract being signed with whoever contractor A, B, or C was.
Well, for one A and one B, it's the staff's recommendation, we have a winter shutdown, correct? In both of them, so that's the way we're operating right now, correct?
Right now, a calendar day is a calendar day, so liquidated damages would continue to, accumulate per calendar day, or per working day. I should state that, per working day. And so a winter shutdown would pause the working day count on liquidated damages.
I was just thinking, it seems like we do have some new questions. Could we wait till the next meeting to make our final decision? But
Yeah, and there is no, so final decision will only be made by change order, so that document would have to be prepared, brought to the commission. And I think, that wouldn't happen until the, follow-up meeting either way. This initial request here is to provide that direction on where would the commission like to go with this, and what would you like us to bring to the contractor in any type of discussions with changing dates.
One of the things in that I have a concern is that if you start counting working days through the winter and you start penalizing contractors in time when they can't work anyway because of the way the weather is, the frozen streets and that, pretty soon you're not gonna have contractors that are gonna want to bid for the city. And if they do, then their bids are gonna be so high that, they're gonna make sure that they build in any possibility of fines. So, I'm in favor of, definitely having a winter shutdown agreement, because there isn't anything they can do this time of year putting down blacktop or concrete anyway. So penalizing them through the winter, that's gonna come back and bite us in the end,
oh, yeah, I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page.
Mhm.
I'm in agreement there.
Yeah. And the staff has put time in on this and went through the contract and has worked with RD. And so, myself and that, I'm in favor of going with their recommendation. Adam, are you still on?
Yeah, I'm here and I would support that as well. I think it's important, but I also, I guess I'm a bit frustrated that we're, 2 years out and here we are still dealing with some of these things, and I get it, but we don't want to make it more of a headache down the road either. So.
Other questions, comments?
So staff recommendation is option B on both.
Correct.
Ray, your comfort level?
What is this gonna do for, are we just snowballing all of our projects? It feels like we're setting the next phase up for failure by continually doing this. What do you guys feel?
I think that option B incentivizes the contractor to come and get their work done right away. They don't want to see these liquidated damages continue to accumulate. And that's the biggest thing, is we just need to incentivize them to get them here, get their subcontractors here, and not push us off in the interest of getting something else done. I think our liquidated damages amounts are enough to do that. If you want to look at, modifying those, like Weston said, we can check with RD. I think this is a plan that gets them here, gets the work done as quickly as possible.
Or maybe what caused them to go work on other jobs versus ours, why this happened, maybe.
Yeah, I know they had other projects where they were in penalty, and I don't know. Potentially those liquidated damages were higher than ours, perhaps they had already. Had days start counting before ours started counting. I think that's really what it boils down to. They had other projects that were pulling them every which way. They did have some subcontractor issues. They were. Gosh, I don't even know. I can't even recall how many concrete subcontractors they worked through. But they were being made promises as well, and subs weren't showing up. You know, I think that there was an issue with management of the project on the J&J Earthwork side. I think they could have done a better job of getting their subs here, getting that work accomplished.
Well, I'm excited that we have a plan where we feel like we can properly motivate the contractor, so. I'll make a motion to,
Let's make these in two motions. Let's have a motion on phase 1A first.
motion 1A, I would take recommendation B for modifying the contract. Is that the verbiage you want on it?
Yep, option B, I think, is providing us the adequate direction.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And for phase 1B. Discussion.
Same story. Same.
Phase 1B would be, in this case, just to clarify, the potential action B would be to change that interim completion date to October 1st, 2022. To date, there would be 43 days that have accumulated that would be eligible to assess the contractor for liquidated damages. When the weather would be appropriate in the spring, the contractor would be asked to begin work again, and that day count would also start again. So on day one, there would be liquidated damages accumulating in the spring.
So this one here is different than the first one.
Right,
So
so in the spring, can staff say when the working clock is started, or is it neither commission overtime? Say it gets cold again, we start working for a while, we need to shut it down.
we could develop a date, a May 1st date, and then it could be reviewed by the city based on what the current weather conditions are, whether that's going to be appropriate or not.
Generally, the contract, I assume, has language for adverse weather days or something, so whatever that date that restarts is, if there's a snowstorm that comes in, those won't count as working days. They'll just be told. Right, and it'll be according to contract definitions, which are, I don't know if they're the same as DOT, but they're all similar.
So this one does have liquidated damages in it because they did not get to the substantial completion date. So it is different than phase 1A. And again, from my perspective in that, the time that the staff has worked on this and the contract worked out with RD, I'm in favor of supporting that.
Well, I'll make a motion to implement option B on the 1B modification for liquidated damages.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, thank you. Now moving on to number 2, construction projects update.
Yeah, thank you. Within the agenda packet was our normal project updates. sheets. Those indicate the work that's been completed and the work that remains. Starting with the Northwest 9th Street and Union Avenue project. The work completed is all of the phase 1, which is that red area, all of the underground utilities. The work remaining is all the curb and gutter on the phase 1, as well as phase B or phase 2, asphalt surfacing, sidewalks, seating. The work that remains this fall is to put up the both temporary signage and, permanent signage that they can. I don't have a date as to when they plan on getting that signage installed, but Wes and I have been working to press that and try to get that done as soon as possible. The RD phase 1A and 1B, really nothing has changed since the last project updates. Major work remaining is the remainder of the curb and gutter, valley gutter installations, sidewalks, driveways. Road preparation, asphalt, surfacing, and then the final installation of black dirt and seeding throughout the project. Already phase 2. Already phase 2 is still under construction. They're still completing concrete flat work. In fact, I think they have all that done now. And so the remainder would be installation of black dirt and the final stabilization of that soil.
Is the black dirt, is that under substantial completion, or with that concrete done, will they have met substantial completion?
Yeah, with the concrete done, that means they're substantial.
I did have a discussion with the contractor today about the black dirt. They had asked, right now it's pretty difficult to move that black dirt around and to even go bring black dirt onto the site. Most of the piles are frozen, hard to get into. The contractor is going to try to find some black dirt where they can dig into a pile, find something that'd be workable, and at least cover the edges of the concrete so there's not a drop off. So they're gonna work to slough the black dirt off just from the edge, but in the boulevard area, they'd likely wait until spring to fill that out.
And then the last project that I had in the package was the water tower. They are finishing up the tank storm repair, and then the remainder of the work will occur next spring. This project has just been, for all intents and purposes, delayed a year. We'll be where we are in 23, where we thought we'd be in 22 for the duration.
And that due to Duratio rather than contractor.
Correct, yeah. Contractor's been very, very good to work with on that.
And having been down to Brandon, theirs was up in the air when the side of it was caved in. And just recently I saw on that theirs is now, back round again. And I assume has the top on it. Yeah, ours will look just like it when it's done.
Hey, on the water tower fencing, is that permanent or temporary? Fencing work.
We do have some site work fencing on there. I looked at the plans today to try to indicate where that site work and where that fencing was, because there was question at the last update. I did try to get a hold of the Banner engineer that works in that project to pin that down. The plans aren't very good about indicating where that fencing is.
I'll follow up on them.
Just one note I'll make is, as the commission is probably aware, construction is pretty much halted for the year. There's not a lot of progress in these projects. We will have more discussion in the future, like we did on the liquidated damages discussion here for phase 2, and then some change orders to reflect where the commission direction is that we have in those projects. But unless there's objection, I'll remove this recurring item from the agenda, since we're not gonna have a lot of updates. And then once spring comes around, we'll have it either each meeting or periodically.
Sounds great. Thank you.
No other questions or comments? All right, thank you, gentlemen. Number three, first reading of ordinance number 1654. Adopting and enacting the city of Madison codification. And Jameson, I'll ask you to address.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe this project started before I even came to the city. So a recodification effort is a long and a lot of hours put into it. The company we've been working with to do that is Unicode, and they have provided the final ordinance codification for approval. We did have a discussion at a commission meeting a couple months ago. Since then, there have been very little changes at all. I would say no substantive changes. And so this first reading will recodify all of our ordinances. It updates our ordinances to reflect state law and the other changes that are made, any conflicts that they might have identified within the ordinance with each other. And it also takes ordinances that have passed since the last recodification and puts it into appropriate places. So on our website, you'll see everything moving on to one clean page within the chapters. So this will be the first reading, and we'll have with this approval, one more approval, and then it'll be in place.
Now, question in that, for the public and that, are they posted already so the public can look at them before we have our second reading?
I'm trying to remember if Sonia said that they were on there.
They are on the website.
Very
They are
good,
posted on the website.
very
Thank
good.
you,
That
Sonia.
way we have both the newspaper and the radio that can report that. So if people want to read them ahead of time, have any questions in that before our second reading, they can do that. Thank you.
The document we discussed a couple of months ago was 401 pages long, so if you can't sleep at night, print one of those off, put it in your pillow.
Questions or comments? Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance number 1654, adopting and enacting the city of Madison codification.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number four, discuss and approve legal services agreement with Jenks Law. And again, Jameson, I'll ask you to address that.
Thank you. We have had Jenks Law as the city attorney for 10 years, 12 years.
12 years.
Somewhere around there, and the current contract is expiring at the end of this year. So the new agreement is included within the agenda packet for consideration. Largely not a lot of changes from the previous one. Changes that I will note are on the billing side. The litigation side is going to be increased by $25 an hour, and then any litigation related to labor relations would also be added on as a separate charge outside of the monthly retainer. And then the last note is that David has hired on a new employee within his firm, and so we'll be seeing a new face attending city meetings and then also assisting him in his roles as the city attorney.
That process will start slowly. You'll still see me a lot. But slowly but surely there'll be some platooning of the effort.
Questions, comments?
He's
Motion?
doing a pretty good job.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve legal services agreement with Jenks Law.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number five, approve resolution number 2022-53. Declare necessity for sidewalk repair improvements 2023. Jameson or Ryan, either one of you?
I'll take a stab at it and
Okay.
Ryan can chime in. So we have, of course, two sidewalk projects that we do each year. One is an improvement project for new sidewalks to be installed, and one is a repair project to make sure that the existing sidewalks are in good shape. Resolution 2022-53 is for the repair side of things, and it declares that this project is a necessity and outlines all the areas which we are looking at this year, which is several pages long and is largely in the same form as in previous years.
Ryan, did you have anything you'd like to add?
Just maybe briefly about the process. So typically what we do is we inspect sidewalks in the spring. And then we would proceed to provide an informal notice and hangers on people's doorknobs to indicate that there's some deficiencies on their sidewalk. And then we send another notice around July that allows landowners to perhaps go forward with the construction if they want to make those improvements this year. Then about this time of year, we put together this resolution, makes it binding, and then formally sets that completion date for the next year. So from the time of inspection to the time of improvement, it's slightly over.
This is in part just a statutory procedure. There's several steps, but I would note that the city of Madison decided years ago to provide more notice, more meetings, more hearings than is statutorily required.
Is that extra hearing why we're acknowledging the resolution and not approving it?
We're starting very early with some extra steps. The door hangers are an extra step.
This year, there were 58 landowners noted to have deficiencies, and there was 77 last year. You know, a lot of these are pretty small repairs, so you'll see in there 23 square feet, that would be a single panel, 26 square feet is just 2 panels, so a lot of these are fairly minor.
And some of them may have been caused as a result of the derecho. Tipping a tree or moving a tree and the roots, you know, pushing up. I know of a couple. And that was the case, you know, and so. They're on the need to repair list. Question, other question.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022-53, declare necessity for sidewalk repair improvements 2023. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 6, acknowledge resolution number 2022-54. Declare necessity for sidewalk improvement 2023 and set a hearing date of December 19, 2022. Again, Jameson, Ryan.
This resolution is for the improvement side of things, so installing sidewalks in new areas that have not been before. The commission did have discussion a couple meetings ago outlining the recommendations from the sidewalk committee and directing staff to move forward with that. So this resolution identifies those areas in accordance with that direction we received.
I do need to apologize. I got so excited about acknowledging this resolution. I brought it up. We're talking about the last.
Right, and that reminds me too, this is just acknowledging the resolution that we'll have on the next agenda as well.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to acknowledge resolution 2022-54, declare necessity of sidewalk improvement for 2023 and set the hearing date for December 19th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Number 7, approve resolution number 2022-55, employee CDL agreements. And Jameson, I'll ask you to get that.
Over time, we of course have had lots of hires for employees who need CDLs. This would be in our streets department, our heavy equipment operators, our water department. I'm probably missing 1 or 2 others. In the past, it's been easier for people to obtain CDLs. Over the last year or so, there have been changes from, I believe at the federal level that makes it more difficult, a little bit more steps to obtain a CDL and a little bit more costly as well. We're finding it more difficult to attract and hire candidates who already have CDLs. And in an effort to be more attractive as an employer, we would like to cover the cost for CDLs for people to obtain. However, we don't want somebody to come here, obtain their CDL and leave immediately and take that CDL and that value that we paid for to another employer. So we would like to start approving agreements with an employee on a case-by-case basis where we would pay for their cost of paying the CDL and then they would need to remain in the employment of the city for 2 years, otherwise pay back a portion or all of those associated costs. This resolution would essentially approve us doing that on a high-level basis, and then staff would have the prerogative to administer with each employee without having to come back to the commission for approval.
You're just approving a larger program tonight, and then administratively, staff can just handle doing these. Not each one will have to come before the commission.
And it's just like what we do with our police department for training as well, you know. And
So I was thinking.
yeah, so it follows the same line and that If they stayed a full 2 years, the $2,500 cost is waived. If they leave sooner, depending on the length of time they're with the city, it's a depreciating percentage that they would reimburse the city for the costs. So,
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022-55, employee CDL agreements.
A second.
we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Discussion and action regarding approval of construction on property legally described as the west 45 feet of the east 90 feet of lots 1 and 2, block 21, original plat of Madison, Lake County, South Dakota. And again, Jameson and Ryan, if you could address that one.
Might as well install a seat up here for Ryan. so-
Yes.
As everybody knows, we've had a number of floods in the community over the last few decades, and from time to time, we will be purchasing lots on a FEMA buyout process to allow landowners to, recover some money for their properties, which aren't worth as much anymore. In this case, this is a property that was flooded in 1993, at which time there was a buyout and then demolition of the property. From what Ryan's told me, the images that he's looked back and found, it seemed like the grading of the area sloped to the water towards this property, making it more prone to flood, and other areas did not have the flooding for that reason. Then in the floods in 12 and 19, the property wasn't even close to any flooding. And with the newly proposed FEMA floodplain maps, it's not even in the 500-year floodplain anymore. So we don't believe that there is a significant risk of flooding like there maybe was at one time. The deed on this property does allow for construction to occur again, as long as there's approval from the city administrator, city engineer, and the city commission. So for the reasons I just outlined, staff do recommend approval since the chance of flooding is low, and it would be nice to get a little bit more housing in town and accomplish some infill development. Ryan, anything to add?
The primary reason this is before the commission is the deed has a very interesting and unique restriction that says that the commission actually has to approve construction. That's why it's before you.
And
I have not seen many of those in 23 years, but that's what it is. And that restriction puts it before you.
And from the flood buyouts and that, there've been different programs. Different FEMA programs. There were at least 2 during 1993, and then there was another one later on. Each of them comes with different restrictions. Some of them also were purchased in that through community development block grants, which are state administered, and the state then has an opportunity to give a little bit of more flexibility than what FEMA does. And this one here was a community development block grant purchase piece of property.
And others call them complete restrictions. There's no possibility.
Right,
But this one is unique, and there
yes.
is technically the possibility to build for a variety of reasons outside the flood planar map at this point. And then the restriction on the deed.
Where is this actually at? I should know the original plat of those.
Yeah, so this would be, the address is 217 Southeast First Street. It would be a block to the east of East River Electric.
Oh, yeah.
In the next block, right between 2 houses.
Yep, it's an empty lot there. It's just south of the library.
Straight across the road from the park.
Cute. That was handy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got this?
Yeah.
Yeah, so because this states that the city engineer instead of the floodplain administrator or the director, this would be something that Weston would then provide approval of instead of me. But I, again, I have no hesitation recommending approval to him or to the commission. Discussed it with Weston already, and I guess unless he has some hesitation tonight, I think he's supportive of this, comfortable with this, I guess.
I would be comfortable with signing off on it. The only thing I probably bring to light here is I haven't verified this. It may not be eligible for any future financial assistance due to a flood event. So that would maybe be one thing to consider, I guess, for the property owner, since it was a buyout. Normally, they don't pay for property twice.
Sure, that makes sense.
And the other thing, and that I visited with Ryan earlier too, a suggestion that the builder does build it on it, bring it a block or two higher. And maybe not put a full basement under it. So just suggestions, not requirements.
You want that in the motion?
No, I'm gonna leave that out of the motion and that, because then I think anyone that's going to build there is gonna take a look at it and, say, we need to do this.
So the city never took that property over.
City did,
Yes.
and then they sold it back to a citizen McDonald.
Not very common, is it?
And it's not, and it's been the policy to not do that anymore. We had done some research back, about a decade ago. And had determined that that was definitely frowned upon.
But at that time, at that point in time that I was mayor previously, and the flood map still showed it being in there. And FEMA now has really downsized the flood area throughout Madison, and so,
Yeah,
it has changed the scope of where that system is sitting.
and this one's very unique in the fact that it's in the 500-year flood zone. All of the other buyouts were in the 100-year or the floodway. And so it makes a lot more sense with those properties. This one really, I think it was just a matter of them being so low. It was like a bowl in the middle of the block and gathered a lot of water.
Probably also that's why the city sold it too,
Yeah,
because it was in the 500, not the 100. Yeah.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve item 8.
Well, second,
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Number 9, set bid date. Bid number 916. Surplus pad mount transformers and pole mount transformers. For December 21st of 2022, 10 a.m. Jameson, you want to address that?
Yeah, we have surplus these transform items that are included in the agenda packet and found them to be over the $500 amount. So we need to bid them out competitively. And so we are simply setting the bid date as December 21st.
I like how you add the bid date to the motion. I don't know why we've been doing that, but that was very convenient.
Well, to be honest, I meant to put it under consent and it just got mixed. Here we are.
You use the typewriters and the computers.
Well, you used to have to scroll through the packet on the date. It's right there. It's beautiful.
is this gonna clean most of that stuff in the back up then?
I can't answer that. I'd have to look to see how many we have on there in comparison to how many we have in the back. I can. remember that.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to set the bid date for bid number 916. Surplus of pad mount transformers and pole mount transformers as December 21st, 2022 at 10 a.m.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 10, assign Heartland Energy as a designated entity to manage renewable energy credits. And Jameson, you want to address that?
Sure. As we are a municipal electric, we have renewable energy credits or RECs that need to be managed in some way. Heartland is offering to do this for all their customer communities. There's a very low cost for them to do it, so they're offering to do that at no cost. And even though we would be able to let them manage those RECs for us, they would still communicate with us on what our goals are for renewable energy and how we like to see them handled. So the staff recommend assigning Heartland as our designated entity to manage the RECs. I believe, as far as I know, all the other customer communities that have acted so far are pursuing this option.
There really isn't a dollar value, so I mean, it's not like the city's giving up, money in this process and that, it's just somebody has to manage them. So that they're kept track of and recorded and what was done and what wasn't. So,
I'll make a motion to sign Heartland Energy as designated entity to manage renewable energy credits.
Second,
we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Do we have public comment out there? Yeah, and Ricky Nikolai and his wife and that, if you would come up, he asked to address the commission tonight.
Good evening. Very excited to bring your community some good news. My name is Ricky Nikolai. I'm a membership chairman for South Dakota State Elks Association. Right now, we are looking into putting an elk lodge in your community. So I just wanted to go through with you guys a little bit about what we do. Of course, there's so much that we do. There's no way I could cover it in my little 3 minutes. So we'll just go through and I'll tell you locally our lodge, what they do, and for the state, and then on to nationally. So first things first, elks are distinctly American. We believe in God. If you are not an American citizen and you don't believe in God, you can't join. So locally, the Huron Lodge, we have a monthly pancake feed benefit. Each month we have a different benefactor. So there's 12 different nonprofits in our community that we support every month on that. We typically do about $7,000 to $10,000 a year in donations on that. Our Queen of Hearts game, which is much like the Legion and the VFW's game, what is it, Jacks or
Jokers.
the Jokers. So instead of the Joker, we're looking for the Queen of Hearts. So if you get the Queen of Hearts, you get the pot, or you get half the pot, and half the pot goes to charity. Last year, just on that little fundraiser, we gave the Boy Scouts $10,000 off of that. Let's see. On the Elks National Foundation through our local lodge. So we raise money in our lodge. We have a per capita that we have to meet. I think this year it's $4.60 is what our goal is. Once we meet that goal, we're eligible for grants through the Elks National Foundation. The Elks National Foundation gives out scholarships to children. Actually, the Elks give more scholarships than anybody in the United States to college students. The only entity that gives more scholarships than we do is the U.S. government. But also with that program, the Elks National Foundation, that money that we raise throughout the year, the grants that we get back, we typically get anywhere, the average is $3 on every dollar that we donate. We get back an extra $3. This last year, we got $4 on every dollar that we donated. So I don't know if you guys invest any money, but that's a pretty good return on your investment to get 4 times your money back every year. So last year alone, we got back $15,000 from the Elks National Foundation to spread around in our community. So we support things like the People's Transit, which I'm sure you have something like that here.
Dakota Transit.
Right, so I'm guessing everybody knows what they do. They offer discounted rides to seniors, among other things. So let's see. What else do we support? The food pantry. We donate every year to the food pantry. That's just a couple things. There's so many other things that I could sit here and talk to you all day about. But we'll move on. Let's see. College scholarships within our lodge locally. We give out about $1,000 a year out of our lodge. Sometimes that can be up to $4,000 because we offer a legacy scholarship, which is for any children or grandchildren of Elks. So that sets the bar just a little bit higher. So we give away when we get an application for one, we usually give it away. I think we may have we have a few of those within the state that we can give away. I think there's 4 or 5, something like that. We did give one of those away here a few years ago, and the only stipulation on that is that the kid comes and helps us with some sort of benefit that we're doing, just a one-time deal to come out and help us volunteer. Let's see. So in our lodge, in our community, typically, we give away about $40,000 to $45,000 every single year that we put back into our community. It does not go to Grand Lodge. It stays in our community that we give. We give every single dollar that we get that we don't have to use to operate our building or anything like that goes back into the community. We don't make any profit. On the state level, we have been partnering with Lifescape for 50 years, which is, I don't know if you guys know anything about that. You guys do. Well, I'll let everybody else know that doesn't know. It's a children's hospital and school. We've helped over 25,000 children over the last 50 years to lead meaningful lives by bringing outreach and therapy services into their home across the entire state of South Dakota. Over the years, the Elks have provided more than $1.7 million just in our state for this project. We've bought, and that goes to buying therapy equipment, outreach vehicles, stuff like that. This year, we expect to help 2,500 children within the state. Every year, so we have a foundation that actually that we draw the interest off to give to the school. And so the more money we put in, just like the Elks National Foundation, the more money we get out every year. So when we have our convention at the beginning of the year, we discuss, how much money we're going to be able to give this year based on markets and all that stuff. So at this point right now, we give about $35,000 a year to the school. Also, we donate to the state major project state donates to the Children's Home Society, which provides a home and school and therapy for children ages 4 through 13 with emotional disturbances and behavior disorders. On the national level, as we talked earlier about the scholarships, we hand out about $4 million a year in scholarships nationwide. So we would like to bring that to your community. We'd like to bring some more, we're in the fledgling stages right now. So I brought this to my state association that I wanted to try to get one started here in Madison. As Mayor Lindsay knows, we did have a lodge here before that went out in 2008. So we want to try to get that back started again and get you guys some money infused into this community.
Yep, I was a member right up till it closed in 2008. So as we discussed earlier in that, it's always difficult to get people to join, but people are willing to step forward, and start, getting the Elks back into operation in the city of Madison. And I personally am that to say congratulations and good luck.
Well, thank you. There's no guarantees at this point. Like I said, we're in the fledgling stages right now. I still have to get approval through Grand Lodge. So just to tell you where we're at right now, we're on the ground floor. I petitioned my district deputy, which is the guy that oversees half of the lodges in the state. He'll send that letter on to our state sponsor, which is a past Grand Exalted Ruler. And if he approves it, then it'll go on to the Grand Secretary. We get stamp of approval for the Grand Secretary. It comes back to me and they say, okay, form your committee to start the new lodge. And at that point, I'll alert everybody, let you know what's going on. And we'll start membership drive and start getting this thing off the ground. We've talked to the DFW. They're willing to let us meet there. We have been holding some little preliminary unofficial meetings over at Nikki's. They've agreed to let us meet there. I think what we want to do is kind of go between both of them right now. So we figure out where we want to be at, but that's just a little bit about what we've done so far. So it seems to be a lot of interest, and a lot of excitement, especially among former members. So I really don't think we're going to have a problem getting our allotted 75 people that we need to open the lodge. Of course, we want to We want to set our goal way higher than that. We want to be somewhere around 125, 150, but. You know, if we can get the 75, we can get our charter and get this thing going. So.
Questions or comments?
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you
Very
very much.
good. Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, under announcements. South Dakota Public Broadcasting has selected Madison as one of its featured communities on Dakota Life Show for the 23-24 season. And so they will, within the next year and that, start coming to Madison and visiting with people and visiting with, community businesses and, put something together in that to put on their Dakota Life Show. Number two, our next regular commission meeting will be Monday, December 19th at 5:30 p.m. And then just to reiterate from our last meeting, there are community board member positions that will be open for 2023. So with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, very good.